All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another Mortgage Coach podcast with Ryan Kiefer. What's going on, my brother?
How are you, sir? Always
I'm
good to be here.
I'm doing good, man. It's looking forward to hearing from a leader in Cincinnati, Ohio. Is Cincinnati going to have a better winning record this year?
And I hope so. We just need some defense, right? We're spending all our money on offense.
Yeah, there's no doubt you need a defense. Although it is time to go on offense in the mortgage space. So,
Yes.
so it is time for offense, and we're gonna talk about how to unlock first-time sellers. Jeremy and Forsey and I started talking about that earlier in the year, where Jeremy was saying that literally like he was closing 8 million a year in production, and half of it was first-time sellers. And I'm continuing to hear that as a trend. Why don't you share how you're doing right now in the market, and then also talk about like what you're doing to unlock and win with first-time sellers?
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. Like Jeremy, we see that as a huge opportunity for a couple of reasons, kind of big picture. Number one, the first time sellers, if you think about it, are sitting on the inventory that the first time buyers want to buy. And the average age of a first time buyer has just hit a record high of 38. So, we look at that as a big opportunity to help these folks move up because and with that, it's sort of a buy before you sell strategy because the challenge with a lot of them is they can't qualify to own more than one home. And they, of course, don't want to sell their current home first because they could end up homeless, especially in a market like Cincinnati where it's super competitive, a lot of multiple offers. So it's helping to solve a big issue while also creating incremental inventory for other buyers out there.
And then what did you think about Jeremy's case that he was making that hey, every first-time seller who bought a house in the past 3 to 7 years
Mhm.
has a whole lot of equity.
They've got a ton of equity, Dave, and if I can share a couple slides here. Let me see if I can get to it. We talk about that a lot. So what we've been out doing is kind of taking a look at the market as a whole here and some of the opportunities that it's been giving us from that standpoint, and we're coaching both our loan officers and our realtor partners, in that regard. So I'm not sure if you can
Hey,
see.
but by the way, a couple
Yeah.
things I want to call out. So
Mhm.
Ryan is a producing manager. I mean, he
Yes.
he is both individual, a loan officer that does loans and, is a top producer by every measure. And then he also manages a branch. And last time, or is it a region now? I mean, I know is it a
It's
region?
it's a branch. Yeah, mostly Cincinnati. We have a few loan officers up in Chicago, so I guess you could call it, a region from that standpoint. But most of us are in Cincy and holding our own. Yeah.
What kind of loan volume? Because from memory, you guys do quite a few units.
Yeah, we're cranking right along. We did, I think, 78 units last month for a little over 20 million. We've got a little lower average loan size here in the Midwest, but there are 15 of us, on the team, so we're averaging a little over 5 units per LO. Doing pretty solid. This month, I'm looking personally on for my book of business about 14 units for a little over 6 million. So trying to get that average loan size up a little bit. I know those aren't J-Force type numbers, but we're trying.
Wait a minute. So first of all, as a producing manager, 14 loans in a single month is, epic. And having a branch with 10 loan officers, more than 10 loan officers,
Yep.
they're doing averaging over 5 loans a month per loan officer. That is best in class. Like I don't know what the percentage is, but it's definitely the best of the best. So congrats, bro.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Now
you.
these
So
these
yeah.
slides, these slides. So you made that statement. I'm trying to recruit, help my loan officers do better,
Hmm.
and I'm also trying to, recruit realtors. So is this a
Yeah.
slide deck for loan officers or realtors that we're looking at?
This is for both, but mostly for realtors. So, I'm happy to share the slides here in the community if anybody wants to borrow them, swipe and adapt, what have you. So this was something I presented at a couple of different realtor meetings recently. So one of the things, that we're talking about, kind of to Jeremy's point, so these first time home buyers from 4 and 5 years ago. So if you think back to COVID, mostly millennials, 91% of them are unhappy with some aspect of their purchase, right? But the good news is they're sitting on a lot of equity. 47% increase in home prices since 2020. So they've got some equity, but a lot of them aren't happy. And here are the reasons. Number one, bad location. Number two, bad neighbors, which, we kind of chuckle about that. But if you think about what was going on during COVID, location maybe didn't matter because people were working from home. Even if they had to go to an office, they probably weren't battling traffic like they are now. So you got a lot of people that don't really like where they live. And a lot of folks, if you think about COVID, at least in our market
Hey,
locally, a lot of folks bought for the here and now. They didn't buy for the future. So they've already outgrown that house.
hey, by the way, Ryan, we're seeing both your speaker slides, like the one that's coming
Yep.
next and that one.
Okay.
Why don't you, do you know how to make it so we're seeing the presentation? Because people might be able to just see it a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering why that's doing that. Hang on a second here. Let's see if we can
Yeah, if you click on display settings, I think you can change so we're not seeing the speaker view.
yeah, yeah.
By the way, it's good enough. Like if you can't fix it or change,
Yeah, it's on. I don't wonder because in Teams it works. All right, I know this Zoom thing's getting me, but we'll go through these pretty quickly
yeah,
anyway.
and it's
So
fine. Like
yeah,
and remember, guys, you're watching. Most of you are watching this in YouTube. You can zoom into it
yep.
and see the
And
slides.
we'll share the slides too if people want to.
And we'll put a link. We'll have the slides in a link in the description. So if you go down for the video in YouTube, there'll be a link to this down below. All right.
Yep. Yeah. So, we mentioned just before that the average age of a first time buyer has hit an all time high of 38. So, there's a lot of challenges out there for both first time buyers and for first time sellers. Namely, that if you saw this last week in Housing Wire Date, baby boomers just became the number one, again, passed up millennials, number one buyers and sellers in the market. So, baby boomers now are making up, it's 42% of all buyers and 53% of all sellers. So, what do we know also about that? Well, they're moving closer to family, friends, they're downsizing. 51% of them are paying cash. So, this is a challenge or a headwind for first time buyers, first time sellers alike, because now you're competing against cash in the market. And this is great
Pause,
for, yeah,
pause real quick there because I
yeah,
also want to remind folks the way you can use Mortgage Coach to show a cash versus mortgage. And sometimes it's not just saying, hey, don't buy cash. Sometimes it's like, hey, you don't need to put that big of a down payment and look at your net worth in 5 years or 7 years. If you keep that cash with your financial advisor or
yep,
you keep it invested in the market, which by the way, right now, today, the market's not looking too good. But when you look at historical returns, which I do think most investors, are
yep,
playing the long game. They're not playing the short game. Putting a smaller down payment makes sense.
yep,
And then also for buying opportunities. So I'm not here to say you should be advocating how people invest their money, but you should show them like, hey, this is buying it cash versus using a mortgage. Or here's putting 50% down versus 20% down. Those are options that you should show. And you should consider, like within this presentation, showing
mhm,
your realtors that, hey, I'm not just a loan officer that does loans. I'm a loan officer that helps your families build wealth with real estate faster.
right,
Keep it
absolutely.
rolling, bro.
Great pro point there. Pro tip on the Mortgage Coach. Financial advisors love that when you show the net worth function there, and love, of course, having more assets under management for their clients. So, for us in the mortgage space, it's like this is tough because we don't make any money when people pay cash for their houses. The other thing going on with the boomers is that the majority of them are moving into new construction, so that's not always great for our realtor partners because a lot of times the builders aren't paying all that much, if anything, in commission. So, we need to band together here basically on helping some of our other customers or clients, first time buyers, first time sellers, et cetera. You've seen this slide before, Dave. I know this is courtesy of the Trust Engine. We've got this tsunami of buyers. So what I'm telling people, this is a couple years old. So, this peak millennial buyer right now is 34, 35 years old. Most of them were born in 1990, 1991. So if the average age of a first time buyer is 38, you've got many more buyers coming into the market over the next 3, 4, 5 years. We basically have bullish home buying demand for the foreseeable future, right? In the way of first time buyers. At the same time, we have, of course, a shortage of homes for sale, and builders haven't really been able to help that out. This net aggregate shortage of homes, depending on the survey or study you look at, it's right around 4 million homes. I think Bank of America and Fannie Mae both just came out. One of them said 3.9 million, the other one said 4 million. But a big number of homes that were short, right? So simple supply and demand. This is going to be, kind of what we see for the future going forward, which basically supports home prices, right? It's going to support home prices continuing to rise. We've got a quick slide in here. I thought it was helpful if what the average rates are out there, because we talk a lot about the golden handcuff effect, people being this lock-in effect of low rates, but it does vary by state. For us here in the Midwest, it's about 4.2%, right? And so it's like, well, why
Hey,
is that important?
hey,
Yeah,
wait,
go ahead.
let's go back to that.
Yep.
I just want to again remind everybody if you're a data-driven mortgage coach, this helps you increase your value. So, by the way, this presentation that you're giving to realtors, how long does it usually take you to deliver this?
15, 20 minutes, just
Okay, so
depending. I had a
it's
ton
a
of
TED
Q&A.
Talk.
Yep.
So it's a
TED Talk.
15-minute TED Talk. And what percentage of the time are you doing this live versus on Zoom or Teams?
I actually haven't done any Zoom or Teams. I've been able to get in face to face with everyone recently, and you tell them what an opportunity you have and how you can help them create incremental business.
So remember, everybody, like just great thought leadership, whether you are in person, which is obviously the place of most impact, most connection. But, Jeremy recently said he's doing a lot of virtual events, and a lot of mortgage professionals are. So either way, great presentation. Anyways, I'm loving
Yeah.
it. Keep going, bro.
Yep, you got it. So the question becomes, how low do rates need to go for people to sell their current home and buy a new one? So get rid of those golden handcuffs, if you will, right? Well, there was a survey a year or so ago that said that 82% of would-be sellers would trade in their current rate if the new rate was no more than 2% higher. So you go back to 4.2% average rate in Ohio. If we can get rates in the low sixes, you're going to see a big time sort of unlocking of the market, right? And we've already seen that. We actually saw that last September and October. Nationally, home sale volume went up 14%. That's not normally a time of year where we see volume increase, but that's because rates went down to the low sixes, right? So, and the other thing to keep in mind here, and I think Dave, you've talked about this before, is with rates, it's all relative, right? A 7% rate 2, 3 years ago sounded really high when rates first went higher. Now people are just used to it. It just is what it is, right? They've gotten used to it. Life starts to happen. They have another baby. Life events, whatever. They need to move out of that house and get going into something else. Talk about being data driven. I thought this one was really interesting, Dave. So it does vary, of course, by state on what the majority of homeowners, what rate they're looking for in order to be able to move. So this is a little bit of a misnomer because the highest choice they gave them was a rate between 5 and 5.4%. They didn't really give them a choice of, would you take a 6% rate or higher? So in the Midwest here, people are willing to take higher rates because homes are more affordable here price wise. So, you have a little bit better purchasing power. So again, data we can use locally. But there was actually within this article, and I can send you a link if you want, it talked about the different demographics. So Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, et cetera. What would those prospective groups take in terms of rate? And the younger it went, the higher the rate they were willing to take. Gen Z and millennials specifically were willing to take a higher rate now and refinance later. 65% of them said that they were willing to employ that strategy versus only 30-something% of baby boomers would take a higher rate right now.
I'm a little conflicted on this slide just because rates are never going to be below 3% again.
Right.
And hopefully, I mean, it would be a complete catastrophe in America if they even get into the threes. So I do feel like this is a little provocative, unrealistic, but whatever.
I agree. A little bit of forced choice because they didn't give people the 6% or higher rates. So
right. And there's a lot of studies. Actually, there's a really good slide that I would replace with this. And I can't remember who did the study, but they did a study and whoever it was, that when rates get into the 5.5%, that is really the unlocking effect. And so that might be a better slide to throw in there.
That is, yeah. I think if we just see low sixes again, high fives, it's we're
anything with a 5 handle is
anything with a 5 that's not a temporary buy
is a complete market mover.
Yep. So let's talk about
we don't want to wait.
We
don't want to wait for that, and for a lot of people, like by the time they wait for that, values are going to be higher. They're not. If you can buy now, you can buy now. And I don't know if you do this, but it would also be interesting to do. I'll ask you in a minute. What mortgage coaches are you showing? Yep. But it would be interesting to show a date the rate, marry the house. We're like,
hey,
you can buy now, and then we can refinance you when rates get to 5.5.
Absolutely, a cost of waiting strategy. Yeah, for sure. So challenges for would-be first-time sellers. We mentioned a few of these already. They're often the folks that can't qualify to carry 2 mortgages at once. So they're reluctant, of course, to go ahead and sell their house before they buy because they can end up homeless. Their current house could sell quickly, and then they try to find something new and they can't because there are multiple offers, or they have to settle for a house that doesn't check all the boxes. Oftentimes they need equity from their current home for a down payment, and it's tough for them to compete against all cash offers, right? So we know these are the problems, the solutions. And, for us at FCM, we have several different, what I would call big picture buy before you sell strategies. So strategies where we can get sort of a cash offer put in place on their current home. So from an underwriting standpoint, we can take that house out of the equation. And it's just getting the word out on these strategies, to our clients and to our realtor partners. I've actually had, to Jeremy's point of over half his business being this, it's well over half of mine as well. I've had 5 of these get under contract in the last 2 weeks alone, where people on the surface, they didn't DTI to buy a house without selling. Their DTI was 60 and 70%, but we employed one of these buy before you sell strategies, and we were able to not only create enough confidence for them to go write that competent offer that was non-contingent, because no one wants to take a contingent offer on the sell side, right? That's kind of a misstarter in our market, especially. So, but we were able to get these folks under contract. The other thing, this was on one of your calls, it might have been Hunter or someone, I think, talked about this last fall, the NAR survey. And we talk about this one a lot to our agent partners, and we focus on what's important to sellers and listing agents. And because it's kind of upside down on what you would think it would be, Dave, in terms of you would think that profit and price would be the most important thing to a seller. And it's actually not. That's number 3 on the list. So that's the third most important thing to a seller and a listing agent. Number 2 are terms of the offer. Number 1 is certainty. So, they want to be certain that if, the house doesn't appraise or the financing falls apart. So this is where, if you have some sort of TBD approval in your world out there, fellow loan officers, where you can take somebody all the way through before they get a home under contract, get them fully approved, kind of turn them in to a cash offer, make that phone call to the listing agent, create that certainty for them. It helps you compete against cash offers, and it helps you win. Right. And that's how we're going to help these first time sellers compete against the baby boomers out there who are paying cash. We have to create that certainty. And then the last slide I'll leave you with on this one, Dave, is courtesy of our buddy Dan Keller. Got to get people financially fired up, right? So, it's been said that the confident buyers write competent offers. We got to get them fired up, that not only we have solutions to their challenges and problems out there, we can help them buy before they sell, but also let them know the demographics and the supply and demand out there, that home prices are going to be supported for years to come, because we just simply don't have enough supply to meet the demand of all the potential buyers out there when you take a look at the market as a whole.
Yeah. So I go ahead and stop sharing.
Yep.
And then a couple. So there's that one slide. So anyone listening, I would propose either removing it or using a different one. The one that, and I'll find it. If we can find it before, we'll actually insert it as an option in the slide deck that he has. And then, bro, I would really consider opening up with the financially fired up, where you're like, hey, there is this opportunity, and we all need to get consumers clear and financially fired up. And I would close with it. So like I would open with it, I'd close with it. And then I would, and I don't know if you're doing this, I would show one of these TCAs and like, and let me show you how, for the people that you have that are first time sellers, how I'm going to, based on their personal goals, based off of their specific house, based off the houses they want to buy, how I'm going to help get them financially fired up. And then who wants me to put one of these together for one of your listing appointments or for one of your buyers, so that they're just like, oh my God, I can't work with any loan officer other than the one that can put this, and let's not even call it a mortgage coach TCA. Let's call this the financially fired up presentation. Who wants me to put one of these financially fired up presentations together?
Yeah, I love it.
All right, show us what you got here.
So I got this TCA here. This is real world. Just did with this one this morning for someone who is going to employ one of these buy before you sell strategies that we've been talking about on here. So, we start over here. The list price on this house is $715,000. So we always kind of start with that. We show them with, minimum down payment, money that they have to work with right now, cash on hand, because again, they haven't sold their current home. I then typically show them, okay, well, it's a competitive market. What happens if we've got to go 20, 30 grand, what have you, over list price? Because, we're in an expectation business, as we know. So we want to kind of go ahead and pre-rehearse them now on what that looks like and what kind of difference does that make in the way of a payment. Nobody wants to pay an extra 20 grand for a house, but it's only $123 a month on your payment. Is it really worth losing the home of your dreams over 120 bucks a month? At this price point, it's all relative, right? So show them those two options for the buy. We then have what a recast will look like. They think they're going to clear somewhere around 100 grand all in on the sale of their current home. They want to know what that's going to look like when they recast the loan with us. somewhere 6 months, whatever amount of time frame down the road. So we show them that. And then we also show them what I call a rate redo or a refinance. Call it a year or two from now. We don't try to blue sky it on the rate. Hey, if we can just grab something 599, whatever on a rate out there, you've paid the principal down as part of the recast. Here's what that looks like. But one little trick that I do on here with the rate redo refi is we show the property value higher in the future. And I get a lot of questions about that, and I'm glad that we do. They're like, "Hey, why's that number higher? We're not going to pay that much on the purchase." And it's like, well, yeah, that's what the house is going to be worth, a year from now, conservatively. So it's almost embedding psychologically why they want to buy now versus wait. That sort of cost of waiting is almost built into this without calling it a cost of waiting strategy.
Loving this, man. Um, any others you want to share before we go into wrap up mode?
No, I think that's the main one, just because we've been doing a lot. I mean, this looks pretty identical to a bunch we've been doing lately. Like I said, we just had 5 folks go under contract with this strategy in the last 2 weeks alone. So it's definitely working. And agents love it because it's creating not only incremental volume for them, but in most cases, it's creating over $1 million worth of business, because most of these purchases are 600,000, 700,000. The home they're selling might be 300,000 or 400,000. Remember, we're in the Midwest. We deal with a little bit lower price points than a lot of the rest of the country. But, in Cincinnati, Ohio, $1 million worth of business for a realtor is a big deal. And so we're helping to unlock, these sales for them that wouldn't have happened before.
I love it. And guys, in almost every market, when it comes to first time sellers, one of the biggest challenges is getting them to go, like, how are they going to buy before they sell? So I just want to remind you, and I'll put a link to this example from Jeremy, where he showed, hey, you could do, and by the way, there's a lot of ways to buy before you can sell. You can use equity lines. You could use a bridge loan, and then you could refinance out of the bridge loan once you've purchased, and then you can refinance. So that's one strategy. And then just to make it visual for everyone, where I talked about cash versus mortgage, this was a a jumbo loan in Southern California. So that's going to be different than a jumbo loan in Cincinnati, Ohio. But there's never been more people with equity. And that means they either have big down payments, so they can pay 50% or more. Some are just buying homes cash. This was a borrower where they wanted to, and they could put $1 million down. And the loan officer said, hey, what if you put $600,000 down, kept that money invested with the financial advisor? What would be your net worth in 7 years? Guys, it's a lot of money. And so the loan officer made the realtor look like a hero. Like, hey, this is a real estate agent that's not only helping me sell homes, buy homes, but helping me build wealth with real estate. And then, needless to say, the financial advisor that got to keep $400,000 under management wants to work with loan officers that can help consumers show those options. So, dude, I love your slides. I love how you bring in value. And I hope others are watching this. I hope you're out there leading in. Like, if you're a branch manager or a producing regional or a head of production, I would make sure that all your loan officers can deliver a presentation like Ryan. I would recommend that you take his slides, use them as inspiration, create some of your own insights so that you're bringing this leadership to realtors. And just think about it. Like, we're doing this challenge right now where we're pushing you to have 10 quality conversations daily. And Ryan just gave you a great quality conversation that you could do at scale. So this is going to help you do that. And in this Win 30 challenge, it's also 2 Mortgage Coach total cost analysis daily. You just got 2 or 3 ideas on how you can do Mortgage Coach presentations daily. And then part of the Win 30 challenge is not only doing, more conversations, better conversations with Mortgage Coach, but taking a 30-minute or more walk every day for 30 days. So if you're not already following our Facebook group, Productivity Mastermind, it's pinned to the very top for the entire month of April. Of course, this is not just an April challenge. My goal is that this Win 30 challenge will become kind of like 75 hard. And it's a lot easier than 75 hard, but it's something that anytime you want to, like, I got to upgrade the number of conversations I have. I've got to upgrade how good I'm doing at using Mortgage Coach. and I need to get out and walk every single day and move, like this will just become a regular thing in our community. Any closing thoughts, brother?
Yeah, quickly, just to, expound upon what you just mentioned is we're doing more of a 60-day challenge here locally with all that, a 60-day burn, because, and using this presentation as a layup of sorts for our loan officers as something to be able to talk to our agent referral partners about, right? And the reason we're doing 60 days is if you think about, purchase market and where we typically reach an apex or a crescendo in terms of purchase apps, it's usually that first week of June. So for those that are out there right now, you've got 60 days to really go grab some market share with your agent partners out there, because I promise you, nobody's talking about first-time sellers. Everybody's talking about first-time buyers and what they're doing. Baby boomers, what they're doing. Hardly anyone is talking about first-time sellers. And most agents typically have prejudged their database. They've said, well, they bought 4 or 5 years ago. They got a 3% rate. They don't need my help. I'm not going to call them. We just talked about the fact that 91% of these people are unhappy with their house in some way. So pick up the phone, call those folks. You might just get a couple deals out of it.
So by the way, I got no problem. Anybody that wants to make it the 60-day win, go 60. I love the logic you had. Like this is the first week in April.
Yeah.
It is time to do a 60-day burn, and it is time to attack those move up buyers. And I want to remind you here at Mortgage Coach, Trust Engine, like we have data where we can tell you in your database who's most likely to move up right now. And I can't tell you how important it is that you are calling into your database, whether you're using our predictive analytics to do that, or you're just winging it, like making a gut best of, hey, who in my database is most likely to move up? And partnering with your realtors, who's most likely to move up? Um, Time to go on the offense, call into your database. So if you have not already subscribed to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, subscribe today so that every time we upload a new video like this one, you get updated. If you are not subscribing to Savage Insights, that's where whoever I'm interviewing next is at the top of Savage Insights. And there's a mobile club. So whatever I make, like I'm sure I'm going to make an edited version of this. I'm sure that I'm going to promote this through that mobile club. Make sure you subscribe to that. And then if you are not a mortgage coach, go to trustengine.com. We have an individual loan officer version. You can just sign up, get started, literally be doing these tomorrow. And if you are a leader or loan officers, tell your enterprise, get this integrated into your tech stack. Have us monitoring your database so that you can be smarter around who you're calling in your database. Anyways, brother, I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Happy to be here.
All right. This is a wrap. Take care, everybody.